Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Chasing Edges podcast. I'm your host, Brian Peters. Got an absolute dog on today, Chad Conley. He's an active duty Green Beret. He's a father, and he's also the founder of the 50 for the Fallen organization that I've participated in. It's a 50-mile ruck that celebrates those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And it's a form of long-term therapy that he used for himself that evolved into this incredible movement. And we get into that. We talk about his bio, his purpose, his why, how he developed that from a young age, through the Green Berets, through multiple deployments, and now into this phase where he's influencing others, leading others. So we talk a lot about leadership, personal leadership, how to develop your why and purpose. And then we get into a lot of really cool conversations about how to find solace in your suffering, how to use suffering movement to move through any adversity you're facing. That leads through some of his career where we actually touch on some cold therapies. He was in charge of the cold adaptation for military forces dealing with cold weather environments. Very fun conversation. And then we dive deep into the 50 for the Fallen Foundation, the Special Forces Charitable Trust Foundation. And we talk about all the details of the RUCK, how it evolved, the purpose and meaning behind it, but also my own personal experience, his experience, and then where it's going. And it's going in some incredible directions. He has a bunch of great people behind him: Tulsi Gabbard, Spartan Race, Thorn, and the list goes on and on. He's developed it into a great movement, and it's a call to action for any of you that's listening to get uncomfortable, to move through any pain, suffering, or adversity you're facing. And it just leads into awesome conversations on why you should, one, keep great company, and why you keep great company, struggle together, and move through it and grow. So hopefully you enjoy. Hey, everybody, quick shout out to the Breath Belt. Excited to announce that we're partnering with the Breath Belt here on Chasing Edges. Phenomenal tool. If you're watching the video, I'm holding it up. Looks like a back support device, but it's a great tool to train diaphragmatic strength. Obviously, being a breath coach, I'm a massive fan of it. It gives you the ability to open up the abs, the psoas, activate the QL, get people breathing into their sides and back, which is phenomenal for them. It's very hard to be a 360 breather. It's endorsed by some of the biggest dogs in the industry: RPR System, Sorinex, Kabuki Strength, Rogue Fitness, all the above. You can find them at the Breath Belt on Instagram. You'll see Jesse's profile there, and then thebreathbelt.com. And the coolest thing here is they have given us a massive code for you guys. The code is EDGES20, giving you a 20% off discount to the Breath Belt, and it's all caps: EDGES20, EDGES20. Check them out. But I'm a big believer in this. Obviously, if you've followed the podcast at all, I'm a believer in activation from the inside out. I think that starts with breathing. Obviously, I definitely think that starts with the psoas. You've heard me say before, if I could do one thing before I trained, it'd be trigger pointing my psoas. And if you use this tool, you'll find out why, also along with trigger pointing the psoas in general. But hopefully you enjoy. Chad Conley, thank you for joining me.
Brian, thanks for having me, man. This is gonna be a lot of fun today.
No, I'm super excited to talk to you. Obviously, you invited me into your world to go into a 50-mile ruck a couple months ago. I'm sure we'll get into all that. And then just the capabilities you have as a human. I'm very excited to talk to you. But just for the listeners and everybody, if you could give a little background on how you got in to the military, and then we'll take it and roll from there.
Yeah, so my name's Chad. I came from a small town in Ohio, and I ended up going to college like everybody else. And I graduated from high school. I graduated in May of 2001. Well, we all know what happened in September of 2001. I was in college, the towers fell, and I wanted to do more. I was in school to be a nurse practitioner. I was on my way, and in 2002, my dad died. That led me to just say, who am I as a person? And I really understood that I needed to take a step back and find out who I am. And that walked me into a Army recruiter station, not knowing that I wanted to join the military, just wanted to see what was there. I thought it was the National Guard. It was a silver-tongued devil of a recruiter. They're out there, watch out. And he talked me into joining. I wanted to be a linguist. He talked me in maybe to be a Green Beret, try it. It's called the 18 X-ray thing. At the time I walked in, I had kind of blue hair. I had pierced. I had like my ears pierced, my lip pierced, like labret pierced, my tongue pierced, all this stuff that's not military. And the Navy looked at me and turned around. he didn't even take the time to say hi. So I walk in, the Army starts talking to me. Next thing I know, I join up as an 18 X-ray. And, with the passing of my dad in 2002, with the way things went, I just knew there was more for me. And being a Green Beret showed me what else was there, which throughout your time as a Green Beret, you do a lot of amazing things with amazing people in this country and outside of it. And I was able to figure out who I am as a person while I was a Green Beret, and figure out, unfortunately, later on, that I'm more than just a Green Beret, because throughout my deployments, I ended up getting sick, started going to anaphylactic shock, not knowing why, hit it for a deployment to one of my last one. Big Army found out, and I can no longer deploy. I take a bunch of meds every day, and I don't go into anaphylactic shock, so it's not too bad. That led me to want to do more. And I ended up doing a bunch with cold weather research and rewriting a bunch of stuff for special operations when it comes to cold weather, and became somewhat of a subject matter expert, which then changed into wanting to do for the guys where I was, at a unit here in Fort Carson at 10th Special Forces Group. I can say that. So at 10th Group. And I politicked and talked my way into being the Warrior Care Program NCOIC for the West region, where I took care of 41 SOCOM units from Texas to Korea. And throughout that time, got to travel to Walter Reed, Burke Army Medical Center, go to the local units, out to Landstuhl, do that stuff, meet those people, help those families, which really, that was a true sense of purpose. You find yourself helping people at their worst times. And at the end of the day, you feel better because you know they can sleep at night, because these guys missing limbs, wives, daughters, husbands, they don't know what to do with their loved one because their life has changed with a phone call. And you're there to just kind of help as you can. You want to be the best Mr. Wolf for a Pulp Fiction reference as you can be. And at the end of the day, 2 days, 3 days later, I would leave, get on a plane, come back home, and wait for the next phone call. Some of those were in the middle of the night. I'd call Sato Travel, get changed, get my stuff, and I'd be on a plane in the morning. But I was there for those families, so it really worked. And that sense of belonging and purpose evolved into a job I was doing later on at Group. And that evolved into 50 for the Fallen, where in May of 2020, we had a lot of bad things going on then, if you remember. And I was still dealing with the death of a friend from 2007. I was understanding that. So I wanted to do something to kind of think about it. And, every time I would deploy, I'd come back. And this is before I met my wife. So it was just single Chad to say, I'd go skiing for a week. I would just be alone, put on my headphones, listen to music and ski, and just reintegrate back into the world. Well, I'm in the world. I don't have that week. I have my wife who's pregnant. So what do? I think, well, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to go just for a walk. And one of my favorite movies is Cool Hand Luke, where he eats 50 eggs. And I decide I'm going to do 50 miles. That 50-mile ruck was some of the best therapy I've done in my life. And I've been in and out of therapy for a while. I thought when my dad died when I was 19, I needed to do something and talk to someone, which led to me continuing that through yoga, meditation, and counseling and therapy. And I'm still a big advocate, proponent that go get yourself checked, talk to somebody. We all go to the gym. We all talk to a strength coach, a personal trainer, or a physical therapist, whatever you do. You need to do that for your mind and your body. So for your mind, I go to a therapist, and I still do, and I love it. But with 50 for the Fallen, that's what it was for me. It was 50 miles, long form therapy. I got out there and I just went. I've told the story before. At one point, I ended up taking a different turn. I'm going to change the route because I almost got hit by a car. Because in Colorado, there's a lot of great scenery and cell phones. So people are always looking down. They're not looking where they need to be when you cross the street, when you have the right to cross the street.
Yeah.
So I turned a different way, started going up a really tall hill that I didn't account for. And I ended up just running, screaming my buddy's name. I was just screaming, Pat, 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 just going nuts. I got to the top, had a moment, had an emotional moment to say, cried, just felt some of the pain from Pat that I hadn't felt or buried. And I felt better afterwards. And then I finished the ruck. The day felt great. The next day I felt emotionally lighter. I felt better. And then comes my friends talking about it. And I had done that 50 miler, the original one with Bo Sandoval, who was at the UFC. Now he's at A&M, with Gunnar Peterson, who you all know, Brandon Lilly, who a lot of people know. And if you don't know Brandon, check him out in his story and who he is now as a person. He's a bright spot. He's a very beautiful human being. But Did that. Ryan Mickler was doing it out in Maine. He was doing 1 mile laps, how big his property is, with his family, and they were just ticking him off all day long. A buddy Terrence did it out in South Africa, and he's no longer with us, sadly. But people were doing this. People I didn't know. They were just like, yeah, I'm gonna do 50 miles too. Why? Because. And at the moment, I didn't really tell everybody it was a mental thing for me. I just said, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing it to honor our fallen. And I truly do believe what I'm about to say, that you find your solace through suffering. You find who you are through the bad times. And you don't need to always mourn your dead. You don't need to always have a loss there. You need to feel the impact that they left on your lives and celebrate it. I mean, for so often, we just get into this, like miasma or this like quagmire of sadness about these things, when we need to say, you know what, without them, I wouldn't be this person. My dad died. My dad got sick when I was 12. When I was 19, he died. But I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't see him every day struggle to lose the weight the medication put on him. And he lost all of it, lost over 200 pounds. I mean, the guy he ballooned up so badly. It was horrible, but he lost all that weight because he knew he needed to. And he wanted to show what it was to be a man. He wanted to show what it was to stand up and say, I can do this. So that led to, my dad and I growing stronger. That led to us evolving and being better people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I owe a lot to that. But then jumping forward, my friends knew about it. We talked about it. September 11th of 2021, the 20th anniversary, was the reason a lot of us joined, was 9/11. We ended up saying, let's do this again. And a couple of friends and I got together and decided to do this in a larger venue. And a lot of companies came on board to assist us. The Yankees opened up the stadium for us. We started in Yankee Stadium. We ended at Ground Zero. We did 50 miles overnight with government and local support, marked and unmarked vehicles. And at the end of the day, myself and a group of individuals walked that 50 miles through New York City. And around 1 to 3 a.m., sometime in there, we were crossing, it was about 1, crossing the Brooklyn Bridge. And people got quiet and started talking about why they're doing this and some of the people they're missing. And the next thing you know, people got quiet thinking about it. And then the conversation opened up. What they didn't know, the conversation turned to levity. When we crossed the bridge, I've got 10 stacks of pizzas waiting for guys. So I'm like, all right, guys, let's eat. So everyone got together. We had some pizza there at the kind of like the municipal building there in Manhattan. Next thing you know, up the road we go, wrong way on a one-way with the cops leading us, blue lights everywhere. And it's the middle of the night, no one's really out, but we're still doing it. It was a lot of fun. Ended up going to a fire station to meet some of the folk there, shake their hands. And it's where Ray Pfeiffer came from. It was his station, 4035. We met Joe, gave him an axe, because I like giving gifts that you can use, gave him an axe, said thanks. He was the last firefighter still on duty that was there at 9/11. He had a wall of 12 individuals who had died that day and since. And we read the plaques, we talked about them, we took our time, and then we turned right and head down the road and finished the RUCK. But through all that, it was a heavy moment for our guys to be like, this is our why. We all were impacted by 9/11. This guy lives it every day. And we live it every day through our loss of our friends and loved ones, which evolves into what you and I did for Memorial Day of 22. It was the first Memorial Day since the fall of since like we left GWAT, that was all over. And those families still feel it every day. Like I said before we cross the bridge, and I won't go too much into that, but they feel that. We could feel it for just a few hours and miles. And that's led to me turning this into something more where it's good to feel that. It's good to feel that loss. But then it's also good just to feel that, impact and that celebration you get from these guys and gals that are no longer with us. But I mean, I've got friends that I'll never forget things from, guys that went to different groups who I had in the Q course with me, fellows that I knew at group who have passed. And, it's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to honor our fallen. We're supposed to be there for our dead. We're not just supposed to be sad for them. And that's where 50 for the Fallen started. Where it's going is totally different, but that's where it started. It's going in a way that we're truly going to be able to help others, working with companies like Spartan Race, working with celebrities like Tulsi Gabbard's jumped on board, yourself and Laura, you guys have jumped on board. And that's a really amazing thing for me to have people like yourself who, you don't have to do this, but you did. And at the end of the day, I think we all felt a little better for you guys. I really think, because I was dealing with a friend during the ruck, because I do the ruck with you guys and then I'm running, doing other things at the same time. I got a lot of plates spinning.
You do about a 60-mile ruck minimum.
Probably do, honest to God.
Yeah.
But it's worth it because it's so much fun for me. I live off of it. But when our friend went down, I had to take care of him. And then you guys crossed into the National Mall when the sun came up. And you had that moment. And then when you guys saw the Martin Luther King Memorial, which I wanted to be the big first one for a reason, there's an impact felt there that's like, wow, I'm doing this for more than me. And I think as we crossed the bridge in Arlington and I gave the little like talk and then we all started running, I think there's something to that, because in that time of pain and quiet, because I wanted it to be quiet up until I, did what I did, that's the loss we feel. It's the initial shock and the quiet and the, oh my God, what do I do when someone passes or something bad happens? And then it's that next moment, that next step or breath where you're like, nope, I'm living. And I'm going to live for them. I'm going to live for their memory. I'm going to make sure they know that I'm still here, which is why at that moment I turned around and we all just took off running. Because we're here for them, whether they died in combat, whether it's a friend, a family, you're here for each other. And that's really what it is for me with 50 for the Fallen. And going forward is the same thing.
No, there's so much to highlight and unpack from that story, and like obviously your evolution into this. But like I think the level of self-awareness and like obviously you going out for whether it was the skiing to initially decompress and then eventually became this understanding of yourself. Like I'm also a big proponent of like therapy and talking to people, because like I think like it's been kind of a theme the last couple podcasts too, where it's like the mental health awareness is out there, but at the same time, like we can't see our brains, so like we don't know whether it's hurting, whether like what's actually happening up there, like is there like lack of blood flow, like we don't have imaging, but like if we like see our muscles deteriorate, we'll get back in the gym. If we like if we have like a cut, we're going to treat the wound and that kind of thing, but you can't see your brain. And the therapy's gotten villainized, especially in like professional sports as well, and I'm sure to some extent in the military. But
yeah,
demystifying that, like understanding like it's mental skills, it's understanding of what movement does, and like you intuitively found this realm and like with that helped change your perspective and obviously change my perspective after participating in the ruck as well, that like suffering, movement forward, like reflection, like understanding gratitude and like how to keep everything pushing forward. Like the perspective on loss is massive anyways, because it's some of it's just a simple flip of perspective where it's not constant mourning and like loss and like what do I do now and those kind of things. And like me as like a physiology coach, for lack of a better term, like forward movement shrinks the amygdala, but like just like movement in general, silence is massive to like unpack your thoughts, deal with traumas, like all these other things. But like intuitively you found a community around you that supported it, and then you just poured gas on the fire. And then obviously getting the chance to participate in the ruck with you, like you literally are like the gasoline on the fire, where like you're running back and forth, you're instigating conversation, like you're instigating reflection times and that kind of thing too. It just made the experience 10 times more powerful. And then the struggle itself ending at memorials, and like again getting a chance to reflect and understand that when you see all the names at the Vietnam Memorial or like the World War II, like everything we touched was like literally just like a reminder, and for one, why we should live. And like I think people forget that, like not even talking athletes and military and stuff right now, people just forget to live, and then they'll hang on to these people they've lost in different ways and shapes and forms that will not restrict them, but it just limits their life moving forward. Like, and I'm just a big like self-reflection person anyways. Like when half the time when I journal, it's like memento mori conversations with myself, like why should you do this? Well, life's short. I want the most out of my experience. I want to help people, like those kind of things. Like, well, you can't just sit here and write about it, or you can't sit here and spin your wheels in your brain about it. Like, you got to get going, and you executed. Like, you felt it yourself, spread the word, and execute, and you continue to do that. And like, so I have a massive amount of respect for you in the realm that you have fostered this awesome community. But just to kind of start unpacking that, as far as like your transition through, like, obviously you've been on multiple deployments, and you have this tremendous capability from like a military standpoint, but it was able to move and bleed into like your personal life and like your motivations outside, to not just like be the soldier, but to do more. Where did that kind of start up, like, and while you were still like active and deploying and those kind of things? Like, how did that evolution, that's like, I because I'm a big fan of like figuring out how like people went from 0 to 1, like like you doing it by yourself, like how did like that, the first step to like share the experience, go?
The 0 to 1 started for me when I was 7 years old, and my dad found a very poor family, and we're from a poor part of Ohio. My dad found a poor family that didn't have anything for Christmas, and he grew up in severe poverty. So he knows what it is not to open a gift on Christmas. And I remember being in the back of our truck, and he had organized all this with food, clothes, toys, everything for this family. He knocked on their single wide, and it was very dilapidated. And I was in the back of the truck. Next thing I know, they're like, "Are you Santa?" To my dad. Now he had a pretty good beard, so they go, "Are you Santa?" And he's just bawling, crying, and like, we're just giving this stuff out. And I'll never forget that. And I had my chance to do that in 2010-11 in Iraq. And I made a little slogan saying, "We're going from suicide bombers to sleigh bells," because they wouldn't let Kirkuk, Iraq in 2010 have Christmas. The terrorist organizations there said, if you did it, we're going to kill y'all. So they were canceling it. The archbishop in the area, everyone canceled it. I was working with the locals. I talked to some of my people, and I said, we're not doing that. They're having Christmas, but all the kids are having Christmas. It doesn't matter the God you pray to. Every kid deserves Christmas. So I ended up doing a big toy, clothes, food drive for them. Made a bunch of, made like a bunch of money to come in. And we ended up giving $100 bills to each house, knocking on the door, being like, here you go. And then giving a bunch of clothes and toys and food to all these people. I got photos that I can't share from Kirkuk's churches, mosques, and another religion called Kakaye that, they did their thing. They gave all the stuff to all the kids. And I got that from my dad. And then for 50 for the Fallen, it's because why not? I miss that. I don't have that screw that says no. It's just, for me, it's like, sure. And that's where it came from. There's no like defining like Blues Brothers, that light came down for me with James Brown as the preacher singing, "Do you see the light?" I wasn't doing flip seeing the light. I just always had this like little ember in me glowing for my dad. So that evolved, and then it just said, why not? And with the reception I got for the first one, I kept going. And then it really, honest to goodness, the reason this, jumped the way it did were two guys at group, and then fella Duncan Butler, if you know Duncan.
Yeah.
Which you do from the RUCK and from before. And when I called Duncan and said, here's what I'm doing, he just said, yep. And he bought his ticket immediately. He's like, just bought my plane ticket, just got my hotel. So people like that, are like yourself, the yes. We all gravitate to people like ourselves, or we want to bring them in. And that's where it came from. It started with my dad when I was 7, seeing Christmas. I got to do that for myself in 2010 in Iraq. And then it just kept going. And, the snowball just gets bigger as it rolls. So now it's to the point where I'm going to be able to really impact and help others on a national scale with this. I'm working something through Spartan Race that will be official later. So until we sign the, papers and the ink dries, we'll keep that quiet, but just know that there's going to be a lot of good that comes from this. And you won't even know it's coming from me, which is the best part. I'd rather be in the gray when I help folks like this. But talking to Tulsi, she was like, you got to be the face of this. So you go out and do it. It's your thing. So I am, because I try to make it her. And she's like, it ain't me. And I understand that. That woman she's amazing. She crushes it. So I'd like to say there's one defining moment. There's not. That was me as a 7-year-old. And then it just evolved and moved. But when you get people coming from behind you that say, hey, we're doing this, and it turns from a pull to a push, it's really easy to do these things. So I'd like to see where it goes on the next few events. And I'd like to see how we end up making this what it should be. But right now, I know that the last events only happened because of guys at group, Duncan, people like yourself who just said, yeah, I'm in. And the next thing you know, we all meet up at a flipping DoubleTree, and we're all looking around at each other like, okay, cool. We got a free cookie and we're going to do 50 miles tomorrow. And then we knocked it out. Total side note, Naron could have done all 50 if he had little shoes. That dog, first off, the night before, I had, because he speaks French, I was talking to him because I learned French for group. Speaking to him in French, and he nuzzle thumped me, and one of his teeth caught my lip and almost cut it open. I felt it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's still a killing machine. He's a puppy in a lot of ways. He's a baby, but that is a killing machine of a dog. But I loved it. I thought he was awesome.
Oh, so he's referring to Laura Zera's dog Naron, who's very highly trained, but his command words are in French, which was it was really cool to see him respond to like your full, but even like your full sentences to him were just like the dog got some juice from it, but the dog ended up doing like obviously most of it was on pavement or like a trail, so like we were worried about the dog's pads, and he ended up being phenomenal and knocked out 40 of the 50, and he probably could have gone the other 10, but just to be safe. But yeah, anyways, that was super fun. You have a couple languages in your back pocket, don't you?
I do. Yeah. Pretty good with French. My Arabic's still not too bad. I got Spanish is pretty, being very, I'm really good in French to say. So with that, I won't say I'm fluent because I don't really dream in French all the time, but having French, as a back pocket, I've got other languages in the Romance languages, all but Romanian. That's a wild one. And it's a Romance language, and no one talks about. You learn how to say thanks, cheers, let's get a drink, and all these other languages as you travel. But yeah, that's the good thing about SF. You always find your way, and a lot of it is through language and through let's grab a beer or cheers, and that goes without saying with most cultures. But
you guys, you were just required to have one language or like an extra like two languages or
no. So you get one language during the Q course or the Special Forces Qualification course, which is done at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, and you're all given different languages. I was given Arabic, and I learned Arabic in the classroom, and then kind of kept it up because you have to for your job. And then I was supposed to go to Fort Bragg, our schoolhouse, and teach for 3 years. I didn't want to do that. So I found my way to California instead, went to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey at the Presidio. And for 6 months, I rode my motorcycle and surfed and learned French. And, in the military, 181 days is a permanent change of station, or PCS. So I was able to PCS there for 6 months, do that from June to December, come back, get back on a team, immediately deployed at January, February, or got back on the team in January, deployed in May, and was with that team. But yeah, that's how I learned 2 languages, through the military. And then just, I'm in Colorado. You have a lot of people who speak Spanish. I don't think it's only right to speak Spanish to those people back if that's what they've got, and that's a way to communicate. So learn some Spanish for them. And the rest just kind of came in from there. But the military, and to be a Green Beret, you get your choice kind of a language in a group. They also go where they need you. I was fortunate enough, though, to go to Germany for my first station, speaking Arabic, which didn't help me with the Germans. But as I deployed, it wasn't too bad.
So what was the timeline on like you having to consume a language, like particularly Arabic, which is a hard language to learn?
They give you 6 months. Now, they don't want you to be fluent. They want you to have the basic understanding. And the testing level goes from 0 to 3 for your basic test, and then 4 to 5 for your more advanced. They want you out of the course. When I was there, it was a 1-1, which is just basic understanding of the language. And I was able to do that. I was supposed to live in the barracks, but once again, I kind of do my own thing. So my buddies and I got a house, and we were all going through the course together. And through that, we were able to just, 2 of us were in Arabic, 1 guy was in German. So we just would speak Arabic at home, had sticky notes everywhere in German and Arabic all over the house. And it was a way to reinforce. And, we were just trying to survive the course. So you do whatever you can. And then when you get to group, depending on the group you go to and your access to that environment, you learn more. When I first got to Germany, I was single, guys, so it was like, cool, I can still do my Arabic. We had a language lab, which was pretty good, and I was able to do that. Still tested okay, but as soon as I could, I switched to French and, went to California, and that was a great choice because you're in class, you're learning French, which is an easy language to learn. You're hearing seals and sea lions barking down at the bay, and you're not far, and you rode a Triumph Thruxton motorcycle in, so it's not a bad day. Oh, what are you going to do on the weekend? I'm going to get a longboard and go surf.
Life's good, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can't complain. It's a good day. So that's how I learned it, and that's how I did French. It was a way to dodge 3 years at Fort Bragg. Nothing wrong with Fort Bragg. I just had other things to do, so I did French and came back.
No doubt. That's exciting. Then like obviously you used the French on the dog, but like was the Arabic pretty active on your deployments, and the use of like multiple languages end up being a great tool for you?
No, and I'll explain why. That's funny. You got to know the dialect. We all have different ways to say the same thing. And, I've traveled to New Zealand, England, all, English speaking countries. Even in America, you go there, it's totally different. It's different words, it's different accents. So when you're taught modern standard Arabic or Arabic used in parts of Egypt, and you try to go to Iraq and speak that stuff, they just look at you sideways. And for a while there, we were teaching an Iraqi Arabic, and one of the guys on my team was pretty fluent. He could get by. But then do they want to speak to you because you're speaking their language and you're working with them? But some of the locals still were hesitant. Some of my friends became fluent in German, and we're in Germany. They tried to speak German to the Germans. The Germans didn't like it. Same thing with French with me. You go certain places, it is what it is. I mean, people are just, everyone's a little standoffish at first until they understand that you're just there for them. It's part of being in a tribe. We get all this like, hey, you're there, I'm here kind of thing. But once you break the walls down, it's pretty easy. And you either go to hand gestures, interpreters, or you just do a pigeon of what the languages you have. And I did find the Iraqis that I worked with and the Afghans on my last trip were really apt to just try, which was really cool. So if they knew some English words, they use them. If I had some Arabic words that they understood that weren't, an Iraq dialect, they were cool with that. And the Afghans, I was just trying to learn Urdu. I was trying to learn, like some dialect that they use just so I could talk to them a little bit and be like, hey, like we're going to get in a line. We're going to go over here. We're going to do this. And you try to learn those things. And as they see a white guy from Ohio doing that stuff, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. At least he's trying. So I think there's a lot in that E for effort that you get from those people. And it went a long way. And that E for effort goes for us too. Like you're trying to put like something like this together. And I'll talk about New York because I was unproven then. And we're speaking the same language. It's English, but they're not understanding the words I'm saying and my reasons why. And you just got to get to a common ground and a common level with them. The next thing you know, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Let's do this. I got that from the FBI, from the police, from the municipal centers in the city, the fire department. And once they understood why I was doing this and what we were doing this for, that turned into, oh, okay, I get this. Let's do this. And it just jumped. It's that finding that common ground. So you talk about learning languages as a Green Beret. That's what we actually learn is how to build common ground, how to understand one another, and how to just be a human again. I think we're more tribal now than we've been in a while, but it's still the best time to be alive. So you find that common ground, you kind of go and you do. 50 miles, 18 hours is common ground. We're all going to be out there. It's all going to suck, but we're going to find a way to get together and enjoy this why are we here moment. And then eventually you find out why you're there. And then it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the ability to obviously like communicate purpose and like generate like the common community or that tribe moving forward. I think like obviously like all the other languages and like I've had very minimal international travel, but like Brazil and those kind of things, even just showing that first step towards like just speaking their language before they'll like default and say, oh, I know a little English or whatever ends up being. Mm-hmm. It's funny how that translates because it's the same when you speak the same language, but like I think a lot of people have gotten away from finding common ground as opposed to just speaking. And so I think that's that's
Yeah.
that's a cool little nugget there where it's just like, even like when you're trying to do something like honorable and incredible, like the 50-mile ruck, but to try and get the firehouse on board, whether it's the FBI leading the way and those kind of things, just the ability to communicate ends up, and again, being savage, but it's just the ability to find that common ground, I think is really cool, because you foster that really well. And like how you lead on the ruck, just from my short experience with you, like you obviously lead from the front. You lead from an energy standpoint. Like I'm a believer that like 80% of what you say, you don't say. Like you can like tell by somebody's passion, energy, and then obviously like the energy levels, and like even like how they carry themselves when they dictate the message. And every point on, whether it was at the beginning of the ruck, before we crossed the bridge into Arlington, all those kind of things, like your body language and your delivery like was reflective of your intention and like what you wanted, like personally everybody to feel and remember. But also like you could tell like it was like when you were getting an emotional, or like when like this meant a lot, or like when this meant like it's time to like reflect and understand, like you could, like you can feel that. And I think that's a massive part of being a leader, is the authenticity behind it. And I think you do that in spades. And even what you talked about beforehand, like true leadership, like eventually, like I think it usually starts as like kick the door in and follow me, and like it's some of it's that pull concept, but eventually like once the communication and the common ground and the struggle together all unfolds, it eventually becomes like everybody's pushing, and now everybody's going through the door. It's that you don't have to lead them, or at least you just have to like monitor the direction a little bit. But I think that's a elite skill set that you've obviously fostered for years and years and years. As far as like the ruck and everything now, because I want to touch and make sure everybody knows where to find it, the ability to support it, etc. But and we touched on it really quick, but what are the next steps of the ruck, and then where can people find it and support it?
Yeah. So the next steps of the RUCK, we've been invited to come out, and I wanted to do Pearl Harbor, and I did not want to do it just to honor those that fell um, when the Japanese attacked December 7th, 1942. 1941, apologize. I wanted to do a little more. And I found myself saying, how do we get out there? How do we connect with the islands? What do we do? And through a friend of mine who's in a sister unit, decided I got a friend you should meet. And he connected me with Tulsi. Next thing you know, we're talking. And we're going to do it out there because I'm tired of seeing this, because I've been to Hawaii a few times. I'm tired of seeing this paradise, this beautiful place, and seeing poverty all around it. And it's like, that is not right. These people should be taken care of. They should be loved just the same. So I started looking for a place to give, what to do. And that turned into a traffic women's shelter that Tulsi supports. Ho'ola Napua, probably butchered the name. I apologize. HOOLANAPUA is the name of it. And it's a traffic women's shelter out there. And through them and the Special Forces Charitable Trust, which is an amazing it's an amazing organization that assisted me with the Memorial Day 2022 RUCK in a massive way, with funding, with support, flights, everything. They jumped in both feet like I like to do. And they came on board, and we're going to do it for both of them, because we still have families that feel this every day. We still have individuals who are lost and gone forever. So what do? I work to make sure they're taken care of. And then we work and help the islands, because if we're going to be out there, we got to help the people there. So the money's going to go to both of them. And that's going to be December 6th and 7th. We'll start at 1 p.m. December 6th. We'll end the 7th at 7 a.m. at Pearl Harbor. Right now, we're working to dive the Arizona and lay a wreath and give a moment of silence down at the water and up on the land. Looking at about 50 people that are going to travel out to it, with maybe about 1,000 Marines joining in right now. It's turning into something with them, and I can't wait. My dad was a Marine when he was younger, so I've always had this reverence for the Marines. I'm a Green Beret, but I tip my hat to the Marine Corps. They do a lot of things right. But that's the next event. We have a pop-up that is going to happen with myself and like 2 other individuals in September in Lake Tahoe. That event is to work with the Spartan race, to do a 50 there, and just to kick off an event they have for their national championships. That's still in the works, but that's how we're doing that. To bring back to the charitable trust, because I have to, they're doing a lot with the Beyond the Battlefield, with their SOS programs. These are ways to assist others if you have suicidal thoughts, if you have bad thoughts, if you need to talk to somebody, because it's okay to have bad thoughts. You can't always have sunshine and rainbows. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to say, today I suck. It's okay to say that. We're not always perfect. But when you have those thoughts that persist, you need to talk to somebody. So if I'm going to push people, you can go to 50forthefallen.com and see, you're going to see that right now, the only way to give money is to the Special Forces Charitable Trust, because I'm not a nonprofit. I help nonprofits. I don't want to be a nonprofit. I want to be there for others. So if you want to give to us, the Special Forces Charitable Trust has a link. It goes to 50 for the Fallen. That'll change in the future as I start working with other organizations, but it will always go to certain nonprofits to help them and others. But if you want to give to us, go to the Special Forces Charitable Trust website. The link will be at the end of this. I'll make sure you have it to give with the podcast. 50 for the Fallen. You can find us online at 50forthefallen.com. You can message me direct, Chad at 50forthefallen.com. You can also contact me on Instagram, because I'm running everything, and it's this sucks, but it is what it is, at 50_4_the_fallen. It's big, long, but there's a way to space it out so people understood.
Yeah, I'll tag everybody, and I'll have the link on there as well. But if you're just listening, though, it's the number 50.
I apologize. 50
and all those scenarios, just to clarify. But that'll all be communicated effectively on my end. And then just a couple more questions to close it out. One of them is a selfish question for me, just with you having been the cold exposure specialist or cold weather resilience, whatever. Can you talk about kind of what that was and like what you found out, or any kind of like nuggets to handle the cold? Anything along those lines that intrigued you during that time in your service?
Yeah. Always forward. That's an easy answer for a lot of that, is if you stop to sulk, get sad, take a moment to be in your emotions while it's cold, while you're not in a good place, you're not going to make it. I'm not saying you got to sweat it out. I'm not saying you got to go crazy, because that will kill you too. I am saying always forward, have a plan, educate yourself. And if you're in a bad situation, keep moving out of a bad situation. On Carbon TV, Laura Zara's got a really good episode on what it is to be in the cold, how to find shelter, what to do when you're in a bad situation. I recommend everyone actually to go watch that. I watched her episode, then I contacted her afterwards and said, this is good. This is great. This is the stuff that we've taught and we've done. And I'm not the best out there. We've got a schoolhouse here. We've got other people who are very skilled. I just did well on, teaching and working on cold weather. But the things I would say is always forward, always have a plan, always move, and never get in extreme cold weather environment. Never get in your emotions. Always know you have to go. JP Vincent, he owns Big Chino Outfitters, has a story about that when he was in Alaska hunting. I'm not going to tell a story, but if you ever find your way to JP's place at Big Chino Outfitters, ask JP about hunting in Alaska. That's a story for strength. That's a story for the way to actually live. And you can take a lot of that and go forward. It's easy when you go to like Norway or Finland or Sweden, or I was in New Zealand, their winter, and you're messing around in the cold because you have a warm place to come back to. You have a safety net. But when you're just out there, that's a different story. JP had that in Alaska. I had that, and it's something I learned for cold weather. Actually, I was running Mount Quandary. So I run up Mount Quandary. I got my pack. I got all my stuff. I get to the top. There are two women in their 50s to 60s. And one of them always wanted to do a 14er. Quandary is a pretty easy one. So they go up and do the 14er. They get to the top, and she's diabetic and she's crashing. She has no food. She has no water. She has nothing. So I get up there, I give her food, water. Next thing I know, because you're on a 14er, a storm starts coming in to where her hair is pushing off her beanie or toboggan, whatever you want to say. So it's pushing it off because of static electricity. So I have to carry her basically down a 14er, down to the tree line. And I told her, I was like, look, if we stop right now and wait or get sad for any moment, you're not going to make it. And as we start hitting close to tree line, we've got marble size hail coming down and pelting us. And then it got bigger and worse. And we stayed in the trees and we rode through that. And then I got those ladies out of there. But that's the biggest thing, is you can't quit. You have to know, like, okay, if I stop, I can die. Am I okay with dying? No. All right, well, I got to go. And that's what it is. That's if you're in the worst case scenario. Now, if you're not, go get you some nice Gucci gear, stay warm, stay dry, and never out sweat your equipment. Always move and travel cold, and simple mountaineering stuff. Always move, travel cold. Always, when you stop, put on something warm. Take it off as you keep moving, and always forward. And that means either stepping out, having a plan, or knowing that you're going to make it.
That's awesome. So like if you're prepping guys for like a mission in cold or anything, like do you guys implement any cold exposure, like ice tubs or like time outside or things along those lines?
A lot of time outside. We're now getting into using ice tubs finally. I brought that to our group. Other units have been doing it forever. We actually have ice tubs coming, but you and I actually were on a phone call one time, and I had just cracked ice and I had taken off about 2-inch pieces of ice, funny enough. And I'm talking to you like, oh yeah, I'm getting in the tub now, and I think it's okay to be uncomfortable, as you understand. I mean, being a professional athlete yourself, you know what it is to push yourself beyond, and then you get comfortable in that place, and then you're able to push further. Cold and hot's the same thing. Whether you're in a sauna, whether you're in ice, it's you being comfortable with your environment, and you have the physical benefits and all that stuff, but I'm a knuckle dragger. So for me, it's all the mental stuff of me knowing like, oh, I'm okay. Oh, this feels good. Oh, it was uncomfortable. Guess what? Now it feels great. Why? Because I choose it to. And I think there's a lot to that. There's a lot to choosing who you are at the moment. And we saw that one of the guys we did the ruck with, Kane, he's from Darley Defense. He's the regional sales rep. But Kane Holland ended up having massive blisters all over the bottom of his feet as we were doing the ruck. He didn't tell anybody. He was still smiling and talking the whole time. Then he was fanboying, I think, over Laura's, TV shows. But he told me later she was on The Price is Right. I never knew that, but he talked about that too. And I'm like, oh, okay, nerd. Yeah, keep talking about this. What she did, not about what you do. But the whole time he had that mindset of, oh, let's go. And then when we got done, the reason was he had 4 friends buried in one section in Arlington that were no longer there when he was a Marine. And the entire time he had that positive attitude, because he wasn't going to sit there and mope and suffer and, do all these things when his friends were waiting for him for a party. So the choice in how you accept those things, whether it's cold, hot, it's all your choice. Like for you, what'd you think of the ruck? I'm going to turn it around. When you were doing the ruck, what was your thought? Like at mile 25, when we stopped at, the George Washington at Mount Vernon there, what did you think of that first 25 going into the second?
I mean, the initial thing was like, I wanted to understand like the tribe of people. So like a lot of like my feelings in my legs and all those kind of things aside, like the initial thing is like, I wanted to like understand some of the other whys and the purpose, why people were there. So like I got into some different conversations, and like that further reinforced like my why, especially when my legs started to hurt or blisters started to show up and that kind of thing. Like I wasn't obviously as bad as Kane or anything like that, but like you're asking how I'm feeling or like what was going through my head?
Both.
Yeah, like at like 20 miles, like my kind of hamstring was grabbing, my left quad was biting a little bit, and it was just like the kind of the same mindset we just talked about. It was just like keep moving. And then like I did part of the ruck after the 25 miles and like kind of in silence on my own, just to like feel what was going on in my head. And like that showed up, and okay, why are you like you're moving, and like obviously like, it's not detrimental to like the next mile or anything like that, but it's like, so why are you doing 25? And then like some of the reinforcement from other people's stories. I've always had this tremendous respect for military and service, and like I didn't choose to go down that route, but like what's a good way to say it, the sacrifice is always like, just like I've never even had words for it, what people do to protect our freedom. And I think a lot in my back of my head, like I know in my life I've I've forgotten that at times, where like I was just a shithead kid, or I chose to live life where I wasn't supporting other people or like building others up. And anyways, and like, and you think of the extreme nature of actually putting your life on the line to defend something that's important to them, that they don't even like, they absolutely don't even know me as a human. Like I can never articulate that or understand it, but I was always compelled to like support that in some way, shape, or form. And then because I personally don't have like a friend that's been obviously like killed in action or anything like that. So like I think that wasn't, it was more like the general sense of the incredible humans that like stand guard for us. And then I've had friends that have lost friends, so they were texting me during the ruck and telling me the names of the people that they lost and those kind of things. And like they like, so I like, and then me and Laura talked to some of her friends, and they were telling us stories of those they lost, and it just like kind of compounded and compounded. And like I knew, like even though my like again my legs hurt, like I was moving forward for a reason. And I just I don't think there was any way to stop. Like I would have gone as far as you guys wanted me to, or at least till the wheels fell off. But it was like it was like a really cool internal dialogue of like I got to sit for multiple hours and think about the service and sacrifice that's been done on my behalf. And I just felt like it's not regret when you like look back at, because I've supported different charities and things along the way and that kind of thing, but it's just like it's funny how many times I forgot about the incredible humans that stand guard for us. And it just made me more and more. And then you see Arlington, and it just gets heavier and heavier, and you just like, I'm getting emotional now, but it's uh I don't have great words for it, but like it just it made me want to move the needle, and it made me want to keep pushing myself and keep talking to these incredible humans and understand them, and like even get like a chip of understanding of what they lost or who they lost. And it kept building and building. It's kind of like just event, like obviously like the body, the feels in your body are like a roller coaster, but like the push of what I heard from others, what I felt inside myself, what I reflected on, was just this wave that would have kept moving forward no matter what. So it was really cool. I had like a couple of days after the ruck, I ended up like journaling for like 10 pages to try and unpack it. And it was yeah, it was an incredible experience for me, and I'm incredibly grateful for you for quarterbacking that, obviously, but also just including me. And so like that was the feeling, is more like gratitude, and then like and your mindset, like what's next, like how can we keep moving forward, how can we push the needle, and how can we get more people involved and into this mindset that like suffering together and pushing together. And then obviously changing people's perspective on, like that's changing people's perspective on loss. And I think it's like, I think that's one of the best things you can do for somebody, is change their mental framework for the positive. And I think the event encapsulated that, you encapsulate that, and I think it's only going to grow. But it was a tremendous experience, and I think that's kind of the feelings and the like physical aside, like the mindset that came to me through that event.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing to be involved in when you're walking on the side of the road and people are passing you and they don't know what these people are doing, but you're just rucking and they're like, what is that? And you're like, you'll see, you'll be a part of this eventually. You're like in the middle of the night, we're on the Mount Vernon Trail and we're just going, and it's quiet. You hear the water and that's it. And the next thing you know, there's a conversation, or somebody decides to start doing muscle ups on one of the pull-up bars out there, some silly stuff. And you're like, these are my people. And the more this happens, the more we're going to see that. And, I ain't out to do anything more than tell people that there's more to you than you. There's everyone around you that makes you who you are, and take some time to be with them. And if it ain't 50 miles in 18 hours, maybe it's just a conversation. Maybe it's calling a friend or stopping by, because we love to use these phones for everything now. And we don't like to talk. We like to text. I'd much rather be in someone's presence. And I think if we can do that, we can get back to a better us. But, it's funny too, like some of the ruck, I just got to talk about some of the fun stuff, because I got to have that in my life, is that laughter. it's always cool when you can go up to a bunch of Secret Service guys who are arresting somebody for doing something we didn't know. And I give them a bottle of 291 whiskey. And I'm like, hey, here's the best Colorado has to offer. And they're like, what do you, and I just tell them, they're like, oh, that's awesome. Next thing you know, they were giving me high fives and I'm running back and forth to you guys passing out whiskey. I did the same thing in New York. I brought 6 cases, so 36 bottles of whiskey with me to New York City. And every firehouse, every police officer, the Secret Service guys at down there at Ground Zero, they're all like, what the, I can't have this. I'm like, are you thirsty? Yeah, well, here, have a bottle. Just shut up and take it. And, it's that kind of stuff that's really fun and cool, or running back and forth and getting pizzas or burgers or, whatever I've done through these events and where we're going to go with it. I have some ideas for the next few when it comes to food and such. And, Thorne and those supplement companies, they give great products. They're super healthy, but damn it, sometimes you need a cheeseburger. So yeah. I think we're going to do some more with that. There's a lot of fun to be had through these events. Going into the future, you don't have to do 50. You could do 1 if you wanted to be a part of this. If you see one of these going on and you're from the military, you are active, former, I don't care. Or if you don't have the money and you want to be involved in it, Chad at 50forthefallen.com. Reach out. You're on me. It's free. It's not about doing anything more than getting people together and making them feel good. But yeah, that was a fun part. I got to tell you what, passing out all those bottles of whiskey is always a good time. Or running over when we're in traffic, jumping in there, grabbing, I forget, it was like jelly beans, or I got something, or gummy bears. It was like 5 pounds of gummy bears I had. And then I'm passing them out, trying to give everyone cavities. But that's the fun stuff, and that's the stuff that I think people laugh at. Or one of the things people don't think about logistically when doing this, where are you going to take a shit? So you always, like, I'm mapping all that stuff out as I'm prepping this. I'm like, okay, can we get in here? And I had worked it out with Mount Vernon there. If we had to, I could have got guys into there. They had a security guard who was still inside, who knew we were coming and was waiting. I had a bottle of whiskey for him. We didn't need to go. He didn't get his whistle wet, but it's okay. For the next ones, we'll do the same. And I just want to keep pushing this forward. I'll give an invite to any of your friends coming out of professional sports. If they've never taken time to just be, because a lot of your guys are super proactive and they're always on the go. If they need that moment, come out, be a part of it. I ain't using you for your celebrity. I don't give a rip who you are. But if you want to do something with a bunch of people that are just like you, come out and be a part of it. If the people that are involved in it in December, you'll see some of that. Quietly, there's a guy I want there who I'm going to say unquietly now is Tom Selleck. So Magnum PI, if you hear this, we want you back in Hawaii. I'm not joking. I think that'd be one of the coolest things. And I'll push that hard. I want Tom Selleck in Hawaii. I want to see Magnum PI at the start of this thing. And I've got short shorts ready to go for everybody for the RUCK. So we'll all get some UDTs. But that's, that's what it's about. It's about that fun. And then it get to the end of it there and we're all running up and I'm playing Rocky on my phone and we're all listening to Bill Conti's Gonna Fly Now. And we're getting to the top of the Lincoln Memorial and we look out and we see this and then we go through the Capitol and we get to the end. That's what it's about. And that's what I want to keep going. That fun, let's be together mentality. And at some point you're going to get into your feels and your emotions and that's good. Or some point you're going to think about somebody, that's good. Just say thanks for their life and the impact they gave on you and go forward. So that's what I want. Next for us will be some interesting things. Like I said, with Tulsi, with the Special Forces Charitable Trust, a bunch of great companies from Polaris to 291 Whiskey, to Doria Ortovox, to Soleil Wadena Fit, to Matt's company, Hate Brand Goods. All these things are coming. And as they do, and you want to be a part of it, just hit me up, Chad at 50forthefallen.com. And if you just want to talk, I don't care, man. I'm just here. And if you're local to me, I'm in Colorado Springs, come on by. We'll go for a 10 miler or we'll go whatever you want to do. And I find that moving and being out there and away from everything, you're more apt to just be, and then you can be who you are. So if you want that, let me know. I look forward to seeing you guys on some future ones. And yeah, this is going to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I just I love the attitude that just no matter what, no matter where, like let's get living. And then obviously like the get the thanks and raise the awareness along the way is just so massive. But
Did you know that Duncan finished the ruck afterwards the next weekend?
No, I did not.
He finished the last 10 plus miles. He did it under 2 hours. He was basically running through Atlanta, through some gnarly areas, and he was just going with his plate carrier and his weight, just taking off, and he finished the whole thing. That's an interesting cat.
No, he's one of my favorite humans. He's if you're listening, he's been on the podcast, and his story about the 50-mile ruck through New York City is incredibly powerful. Like he did it tremendous justice, and he obviously is a great storyteller and articulates really well, but he's somebody that leads with his heart, that goes, that is a person that reaches out and checks in, and obviously like he moves with tremendous intention, and he did that obviously in the ruck, and then like he went till the wheels fall off, and then he like the fact that he went and killed it as far as the finishing up in Atlanta. Like I'd expect nothing less, because the dude is just an absolute elite liver.
Yeah, no one knew who he was when he came to the DC or the New York City Ruck. They thought this guy was one of us from back when, or from another unit, or CIA or something, because he came with the long hair, the beard. They had no idea. They just saw this wild man with a plate carrier just going for it. They find out later who he is and the people he's worked with. And for DC, people who did not know him knew of him and were looking for him. Because when I got there, they're like, "Where's Duncan? I got to meet this guy," and all this. And I'm like, you know that's the chick who's done like a bunch of Naked and Afraids and all this cool stuff. You know that guy was a pro football player, linebacker, captain for the Texans, and this guy did that. And they're like, yeah, where's Duncan? And that was like the funniest thing. And I think he's gonna be like the local celebrity for all of these. It'll be the Duncan Butler show, and I can't wait for that, because that guy I can't say enough about Duncan, obviously, but
no, he's just he's an electric factory with a big heart, man. He's fun to be around, and like that's the drive. And like even like if you are gonna participate in the ruck or do it at home and those kind of things, like get good people around you, and like again, like it doesn't like get to it, like whether it's a mile or 50 miles or 60, whatever it ends up being, like go like get uncomfortable, struggle with great company, and like life is pretty cool.
That's a great way to end it there. Life is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, Chad, you're the absolute man. I appreciate your time, your wisdom, your stories, everything. I am in massive respect of what you do and how you're doing it. Obviously anybody that's listening, follow the links. You'll links to him and to 50 for the Fallen, the charitable trust, and tune in and follow along and get uncomfortable with the boys, and let's see where we can take this. So just again, thank you for your time, and thank you for what you're doing. You're the man.
Thanks, brother. Without guys like you, it wouldn't happen.
Easy. All right. Be well, brother.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Hope you're getting a lot out of it, a lot of value, or at least some entertainment. But if you are enjoying and getting value out, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and review on all audio platforms, and then subscribe on YouTube. All of it would be greatly appreciated. All the support is massive. So thank you, and be well.